Hey, 843 here, Big 550 KTRS. Chris Krega is with us. He is a director, and he's part of the 15th Annual St. Louis Filmakers Showcase that's going on this weekend. I guess starts this weekend at the Tivoli. CinemaStLouis.org to find out all of the films. We had one on yesterday. Chris, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Your movie starts at 4 on Sunday, and it's called Weldonkreig. Weldonkreig, as in Blitzkrieg, which is what you told me 2 seconds before we went on the air.
Yeah.
Weldonkreig, 4 p.m. on Sunday at the Tivoli on the Loop in Delmar.
That is correct, sir.
What is Weldonkreig about?
Weldonkreig is about World War II reenacting, which started in St. Louis in the mid-'70s.
It was actually the first.
It was the first
spot for World War II reenactment, right?
Well, World War II reenacting,
yeah.
Anywhere. As far as I know, as far as they know.
Right.
Yeah.
In Weldon Springs?
In Weldon Spring, Missouri. So
a bunch of guys got together in the 70s and said, let's just reenact what happened in World War II.
Basically.
Yeah. And so your movie documents these reenactors.
Well, it documents this reenactment, sort of the birth of it, the demise of it, when they cleaned up everything out in Weldon Spring, when they built that big mound out there.
Right.
And then the return of it in 2014.
Why? It's a phenomenon which I don't quite understand. It's a hobby, so God love them. They're not hurting anybody by it. But what's the motivation to sort of reenact all these battles and marches and things like that?
Well, I think it's sort of a twofold thing. One, as all the guys will tell you, it's to honor the veterans and to keep the memory alive of World War II. Because all these guys are passing away at an alarming rate. Within 10 years, there will probably only be a handful of that generation left.
Right.
So that's one. That's a big thing. And the other, it's kind of fun to go out and play Army.
All right, fair enough.
And it's amazing, the equipment and the uniforms. You show video from the very first one.
Yeah.
Into modern day, and I can't believe all the
they have tanks, they have jeeps, they have trucks, they have half tracks, they have artillery, and then just hundreds of guys dressed in period uniforms. It's a sight to see.
How did you get involved in this?
Well, about 10 years ago, I made a World War II film. I guess I should say I started making a World War II film called Rhineland, which took us 3 years to make. And early in the process, I met a couple of reenactors, a German reenactor group and an American reenactor group, and I stayed in contact with these guys. And then, I guess in 2013, I kept seeing on Facebook, I was friends with these guys, they kept posting about Weldonkreig. And I finally asked, what's Weldonkreig? And they said, it's this reenactment that was like the first ever, and we're bringing it back. I'm like, someone should make a documentary about that.
And there you go. Now, it isn't, we see the Civil War reenactors. Those are people clearly who didn't partake in the Civil War. Are these are people who were a part of World War II, but now you have to have a generation of people who are doing it who had nothing to do with World War II?
Well, the guys who started it, they were the sons of World War II veterans. And in the early days, there were actual World War II veterans who went out there and did it. I guess maybe it was a cathartic release. Maybe it was just something they had a great deal of interest in. Like the guy who founded one of the German reenactor groups, was an American tanker. And he said, well, I wanted to see what it was like, being the other side, because I fought against those guys, and I just wanted to play on the other side.
Right.
So there's a definite connection there with a lot of these guys.
You have some young kids, and part of the documentary, some young kids who are a part of not this reenactment, but are they training to be reenactors, or who are they?
Well, there is a group, it's called the 84th Rail Splitters. It's a GI reenactment group, and there's a school in mid-Missouri, the Missouri Military Academy, where they have I guess it's a club there for the rail splitters, and that's where they get the recruits. And these are young cadets, 18, 19-year-old kids. So it's something that they have an interest in World War II. And the interesting thing is, because a lot of people ask me, well, how old were these guys doing this? And I said, well, they kind of range between 18 and 50. And really, the 18, 19-year-old reenactors are closer. I mean, those are the age of the people who actually fought in the war.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's more accurate for those guys being out there doing it than a 50-year-old man.
The attention to detail must be something that is a large part of the movie, because I can only imagine some of these guys go to what degree they go to become authentic.
Yeah, I mean, these people go to great lengths and expend a lot of money to do this. It's not a poor man's hobby.
Yeah.
Like some of the vehicle collectors, I know one gentleman in particular who has a warehouse full of period vehicles. He estimated his collection at around $13 million.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Too rich for me.
$13 million in World War II memorabilia?
No, in World War II vehicles.
World War II vehicles.
Tanks and
Half tracks and trucks and tank retrieval vehicles and motorcycles and all
does
that
he
sort
just
of
use
stuff.
them like once a year? Do they reenact this yearly?
Weldonkreig is a yearly event now, but there are reenactment events going on all over the country at this point.
Do people come and watch them reenact?
Not this one. The big one here where they have a public viewing is at Jefferson Barracks. I think it's called World War II Weekend, and that's
Okay.
every spring. And that has a public battle, which draws a pretty good crowd. But this is just for the reenactors to do private reenacting, basically.
So for you shooting this documentary, how long did it take you? And I'm sure, it had to cost quite a bit of money to...
You get backed by one of these guys who got $13 million worth of tanks.
Really?
Sadly, no. We went out there 2 years running, and it was a 3-day event both times. And I had a film crew both times consisting of 5 people. We were embedded with the troops, basically. So we went in more or less as combat photographers. So we were in full uniform, and we were
Wow.
with them in the field. And it really adds to the authenticity, I think.
Yeah. I saw World War II reenactors, and no one believes me. Your next film should be on World War II reenactors. I saw the Normandy, in Normandy, France, on July or June 5th. I was there before the anniversary one year. And there was an American flag almost on every single house in Normandy. And on street corners, they had Frenchmen dressed up as American GIs walking around with canteens and units and tents and tanks, and they were all paying homage to the American GI for what they did. And I was blown away by that these French, who are criticized in America for not loving America, go to such great lengths to reenact every year and pay homage to those World War II guys.
Oh, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was actually in France this year on D-Day. My wife and I took a vacation
Oh,
to
okay.
France for the first time, and it's incredible. I mean, these people, they have not forgotten, and it's a very big part of their.
So you saw what I saw.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They are very much thankful for what the United States did. At the D-Day invasion and liberating France. I mean, it's.
People don't believe me when I say that, but I mean they there's American flag on all those houses,
Yeah.
right? All up and down. It's really it's very heartwarming. I mean, it's really quite unbelievable to see. All right, so Chris Krega, the film is called Weldonkreig. It's 4 p.m. Sunday at the Tivoli. Tickets online.
I believe so.
I'm assuming it's probably going to be sold out.
I hope so.
You betcha. All right, so to find out more, cinemastlouis.org, Tivoli, 4 p.m. on Sunday. Act now, get your tickets. Sounds like a great movie. Chris, thanks for checking in.
Thank you.
Thank
You got it, 852, Big 550, KTRS.